If your laughable attempts to beat Fool's Idol in Demon Souls look anywhere near as embarrassing as this, then throw your controller no more as I show you how to turn this magical cheese master into the real fool of this story. This is one boss fight that begins even before it begins. If you don't know what that even means, then turn around from that fog wall and run away like the boss's life depends on it. Because it does. You see, perched in a room above the boss room is a crusty ass sorcerer dude who's busy conjuring a spell to bewitch you into bashing your head against a brick wall. To get to him you need to suffer the world's most vertigo-inducing staircase that'll make you feel like you're sculling a pizza milkshake on a merry-go-round, after which if you're still able to sit upright you've got some Forrest Gump level shit to do before eventually you'll get to his little hidey house. If you didn't find this guy, that'll be one reason why this boss fight is a right pain in the ass. If you look over the railing here, that's the boss room down there. Don't worry, he won't attack you, he's too absorbed in chanting the boss to make sure she heals from your vain attempts to hurt her. Well, that's what he thinks. He can't make the boss fight a chore if he's dead. He can't stop us from taking his keys if he's dead either. You can use these to open a cell back in the prison and free an important dude, but that's not what this guide is about. This guide is about a boss fight, so now with the boss fight troll to end all boss fight trolls out of the way, let's go and do that. To get back you can avoid the staircase of eternal vomit by dropping down here. For the love of all that isn't deathly dizzy, do that. You're safe to go in the fog wall now, but don't panic, nothing will happen until you want it to. The boss is at the end near the altar and she'll stay chill there until you get too close to her. To help with that, equip the thief ring. This will help calm some of the aggro you'll get from the boss's clones when she spawns them in. And we'll get to the clones later. Until then, go ham and clear the first half of the room of all enemies and chairs. The enemies aren't much of a bother, but those chairs are going to help the boss more than any chair I can remember in recent history. We'll be running all over the place and those chairs can be like impregnable walls of granite that even the most seasoned of warriors can't push past. They're not loot chairs though, so don't get too excited. While you listen to me do that, look at this image. When the boss fight starts, magic traps spawn all over the place, but you'll only see them for a split second before they go invisible. Normally you have to remember where they all are, which is a tough ass since, as you can see from this second image, their positions can randomly change at the start of each teleport phase. If you're not overpowered, there can be quite a few teleport phases to deal with, and since I have to assume you have the memory of a goldfish, that ain't good news. What is good news is that it won't matter. We can forget trying to memorize images of trap locations. I'm going to show you exactly where you can run safely to avoid them all, no matter what random variation of them you ever get. But since this is the 2020s, there has to also be some bad news. Which is, you still have to remember what I show you. But unless you're overpowered and can smash the boss in a few hits with your melee or ranged attack, memorizing where you can run is by far easier than memorizing 8 different trap locations every single teleport phase. And that's because there's only a handful of paths you actually need to know about. Alright, I've cleared out the chairs and the enemies without getting close to the boss. You can run around freely until you go past the second closest pillar to her, as that will get her attention. But if you do trigger her without wanting to, just back off again and the thief ring will calm her down. But let's calm her up. Watch her and the real boss will raise her hands to place traps, and if it spawns here, this is the only trap you'll ever see on the left side. Let me walk into this for your viewing pleasure. The trap won't hurt much, but if you get hit by the boss's soul ray blast while you're having a magical fit, you'll take a ton of damage. This trap isn't always here though, but always assume it is. Anytime you go by here, just run around this pillar by hugging the left wall, and you'll be safe, whether the trap's there or not. The rest of this left side is always free of traps, so you're safe to run up and down it as you see fit. From this item here, you're safe to run diagonally out into the back floor area in the direction of the centre of the 2 back right pillars. Here, you'll be safe from any trap that spawns in the back. You're also safe to run along the back so long as you hug these doors. This is the right side, and it's always perfectly safe from back to front. No traps spawn along the right side here, ever. I'll stop here at the final pillar so you can see the boss's soul ray blast. The real boss, and there are no clones here yet, that's the real boss, shoots a larger blast than the clones. That's one way to tell it's her. You can use this item pickup spot to get your bearings on the next safe area you can go, which is right through the middle here. No matter what variation of trap spawn you get, you are always safe to run right through the middle here from one side to the other. Think of all other chairs in this area to be unsafe to run through. The exception to this rule is if the boss is right there. If the boss is right there, you are safe to run directly in straight to hit her. Otherwise, there can be a trap right here, and there can be a trap right here. And there is. So never run through these chairs any way other than through this middle area unless the boss is there to be hit. Again, from this middle item, you are always safe to go around the pillar, through here, along the back of these chairs and around that pillar. but there is often a magical trap right here, and there is. So never step in this spot. If you're going to go through this area from where that item is, just hug this pillar and run along the back of those chairs. Once again, you're good to run up this side all the way to the back, but don't try to cut through these pillars. There is a trap usually right about here, and there is often another trap near where that death message is, right here. And there's often a trap around about here. If the boss does spawn near that chair where I just showed you where that trap could be, you can always get to the boss by going around and hugging that pillar there. The reason I'm showing you the trap locations is not to memorize them, but just so you're aware why I'm showing you the paths I'm showing. So again, you can run straight diagonally from that item to the middle of the floor there. From the item you can run along the edge of these doors. You can run safely down this whole right side without worrying. And from this item marker you can go through that middle set of chairs there. Never run around the left side of the pillar from the item, but you can go around the right side along the back of these chairs. Just be aware, never run down the middle of all of the chairs. There are traps there. They'll usually be in different spots, but there'll always be traps down the middle there. Again, you're safe to go through there. Just bear in mind there can be a trap on the left. And on the left, stick to the left wall to avoid the final trap at the final pillar. You can easily avoid a soul blast by rolling forward under it because it has a really wide iframe window. You'll hear a wind up noise and she'll raise her hand to her head. If you're close to her, roll right as she brings her hand down just before she actually fires. If you're further away, roll when you hear the actual firing noise. You should grab the weapon that's behind her right now to avoid losing your chance at it later, but if you're a scaredy cat, then I'll show you at the end of the video how you can get it after the fight is over. Hit her however you like. The moment you do, she'll stop firing and prepare to teleport away. Get in as many hits as you can before she does. Once she teleports, she'll spawn one or more clones. The amount of clones she spawns depends on how much damage you've done. After teleporting, you'll also see the trap locations go visible for a moment. Not that it matters to us since we know exactly where we can run anyway. Be aware the boss or her clones can spawn in the front near the altar, so don't put your back to it and think you're safe without checking. I did enough damage for her to skip the single clone phase and go straight for double doppelgangers. If you lock on and see a health bar above the boss's head, you'll know that's a clone and not the real boss. The real boss's health bar is on the bottom of the screen. This is important to know because there's a trophy for killing the boss without hitting any of the clones, so we need to tell them apart. You can tell the clones because their blue blast is thinner than the boss's, and when you lock onto them there's a health bar above their head. There's no health bar above this one's head, so we know this is the real boss. But remember, we also know the back can be covered in traps. The only safe way is to go along these doors, then hide behind this pillar until she fires her second shot and chills out. Once she does, run from the pickup, diagonally across the floor and hit her. Remember, the only true safe spot here is in the middle of the floor. There could be a trap right near where she is, so don't go too far forward. Just hit her as much as you can without going forward. Then run back to the pillar and reset when she teleports to see where she goes next. This time we saw the traps appear and we know there's no trap right where that one just spawned. If I lock onto her to see if she's a clone, she is not, she has no health bar. We're safe to run straight across and go to town on her, and because we know there's definitely no trap there, we can just go forward, it doesn't matter. You just have to remember, only go to the middle of this floor diagonally if you're not sure if there's a trap there or not. Another one has spawned in the same spot, and we can see there's a trap behind her this time. So I can run directly out to the middle of the floor and hit her, but I don't really want to go too far forward and risk stepping into that trap. Of course, if you accidentally do step too far forward into a trap while hitting a boss, it won't really matter. You'll lose a little bit of damage from the trap and it'll cost you putting some damage on the boss, but because the clones stop firing once you hit a boss, you won't take any more damage than that. We can see a clone or the real boss is teleported there again, and there's a trap behind her. If I lock on, it is the real boss. So just to defy the odds of probability, she doesn't want to go anywhere but here. I'm going to swipe the air to express my disapproval. Doesn't she know I'm making a guide and want to show you guys how to get to her when she spawns in different spots? Alright, I'm not going to take much health off of her here. I'll just sneeze some magic at her. Hitting her once will trigger another teleport phase, and hopefully this time she'll have the common decency to go somewhere else. Alright, another one has spawned there. If I lock on, I'll see, no, there's a health bar, that's not the real boss. The boss is one of the ones down the back or in the middle area. I can peek out like that just to get an idea of where they're all positioned. Remember, the not filled trophy is only awarded if you don't hit a clone, so we have to spot her soul blast or lock on to find which one she is before we do any attacks. And that's her on the right hand side. So I'm going to run back to this left pillar, and then I'm going to run over to the right side via sticking close to these doors again. Stopping at this pillar to take a breath. Remember, don't panic, you can just take this quite casually until you run out into the open. That's the boss there, and she's in the area that I showed you earlier from this item pickup. Here I know I'm going to get hit from the side, but I rolled under the boss's blast because the boss's blast is the most dangerous. I'm also aware of my positioning, and I know in this area I need to go back along the back of these chairs and around this pillar, just as I showed you earlier. Just remember, the boss's blast is the most dangerous, so that's the one you have to avoid more than anything else, and as long as you don't step in a trap, you'll be fine with being hit by clones. Once again, the boss is right near us, and once again, I'm only going to put a few shots on her because I don't want her health to go too low. I still want her to spawn further up the front near the altar so I can show you that too. Hopefully this time she'll teleport to the front. Well, that's not her. I'm going to move forward a little bit and lock on. That is the boss. She's not at the front, but that's pretty good too. Remember I said you can always go directly in to get a boss from whatever side she spawns on? That's how I know I can safely go in from the left there to hit her without worrying about a trap. But I definitely don't want to kill her yet, so I'll just give her one hit and hopefully she'll spawn up the front this time. Of course, you're not a fool making guides, so if that were you, this fight would already be over. Alright, so that's not her. There's another one just there, and that's not her. And I'm going to peek out a little bit and try to lock on to that far one to see if that is her. And that's not her either. So the boss is definitely one of the clones that are up the front. With the clone right there on the right, it's a little bit hard to peek out, but I can still peek out enough to see that the position of the clones up the front. So what I want to do now is I want to cross over to the right side. I don't really know which one of the ones at the front is the boss, so if we hug these doors again and go to this right pillar, I did see there was only one clone at the front, so I'm going to run all the way to the front to see if that's the real boss, and while I'm there I'll be able to show you a kind of a safe spot that I haven't shown you yet. It's a safe spot if there are no bosses up in the front area. If there's one, you can stand in this corner bit here to avoid all the others' blasts, and you can dodge under this one's. If I look on, I can see she has a health bar, which means this is the real boss. Again, there'll never be a trap on the same side that the boss is on if you go straight in between the chairs. And I took a shot there again, but it doesn't matter. Look at the health it took off me, next to nothing, because if you're not in a trap and it's not the boss's shot, it doesn't really do much at all. And that's how to make a fool of the fool's idol without knowing where the traps are. We can pick those items up now too. Remember, all you have to do is follow the paths that I showed to avoid the traps, and it doesn't matter what level you are, you'll be able to do this with ease. If you're overpowered or a higher level though, you'll do it so easy that you maybe should keep that to yourself, because this actually isn't that hard at all if you're overpowered. And for the scaredy cats that didn't pick the weapon up at the start like I recommended, make sure you hug these railings to come into the back here without going to the front of the altar to pick up the weapon now. If you don't, you'll miss out, because the moment you go around to the front of that altar, a bunch of gargoyles will drop down and they'll pick you up and they'll take you away, but instead of killing you like they could and end the story right here and there, they won't. They'll instead drop you at a brand new location, which is good for you because that's where you'll actually get the boss you just killed's soul. That's the Dole Demon Soul. This is the location, and all you have to do is climb the stairs to get it. Now all that's left to do is to brag to your friends how you can beat this boss with melee only using skill, and you don't need to cheese it by cowering in a corner with a level 6000 bow like they did, or level up to level 10,000 either. They'll feel like noobs, but you won't. You'll feel great, which is why you'll probably put a like on this video. Okay, thanks, bye.